Hi everyone, welcome to Murphy's Little Garage. Today we're going to be installing
Kelltrac's Posi Loc system for the IRS subframe. This is pretty easy to do, so I'm going to make it nice, short, simple, and clean, but it's also going to be done at the same time as I do Kelltrac's differential bushing kit and some BMR goodies. But we're going to be focusing on this for this video. Dang it.
All right, I'm not going to pretend like you need my help to understand how to jack up your car or take the wheels off. So I'm going to go ahead and get the back wheels off. I'm going to get the whole car picked up off the ground on 4 jack stands because I'm going to need to drop the IRS subframe to do the whole process I'm doing today. But the video that you're watching specifically tailored to one part will address those individually. I'd like to show you a visual representation of what it looks like when the IRS subframe shifts because there's no lockout kit on it. Look at this flat flange on the fender. Now watch this. I'm gonna move over till that flat disappears. Boom, right there. See the tire's gone. You can't see it up here anymore. Let me move back. See the tire? Gone. Look at this. There's that same flat flange. Let me move over. Boop, flange is gone. Look at the tire. So the IRS subframe has actually shifted this way 1/4 of an inch. That's huge. That means not only is the subframe moving on a launch, but it is so violently shifted that the bolts are pinching the subframe with the bushings all loaded up off to this side. That's a no-no. Let me show you why this car does that. And there you go. It only takes so many 150-something, 60-foot launches trying to pick up the nose of this heavy-ass car before you're going to do something like this. So this is why we need to put in a Posi Loc, as well as some upgraded diff bushings and all of that fun stuff to try and stop this from happening. All right, saved you the trouble of watching it get jacked up and the wheels coming off. Something I wanted to point out here, just how much the subframe is moving. Look at the upper spring mount, the rubber isolator. This has moved enough, the subframe has twisted enough that it's actually allowed the spring to walk off of the isolator, both top and bottom. It'll be a little hard to see the bottom one, but it's no longer sitting in the end of the spring cradle down there. And this one has completely walked off. Like this part of the spring is supposed to be way over here, and this whole thing is kind of twisted and pushed forward. That's how hard the cradle is rocking backwards and allowing this spring to move. All right, I'm under the car. Now you can better visualize just how perturbed the isolators are for these springs from the subframe twisting and trying to force it out. All right, now to drop the subframe, on both sides you have this one big bolt that goes up through the subframe and these 2 little bolts. So what you're going to do is take these 2 little bolts out, set them down out of the way, loosen this subframe bolt. There's one just like it on the other side over there. And then this guy right here on the back by the sway bar. Another one right there. Drop them all down about 1/2 of an inch just to float the subframe assembly. And then you'll take the bolts out one at a time to put in the Posi Loc system. Now, because I'm taking this subframe completely out so I can do the bushing upgrades here, I'm going to go ahead and pull the subframe fully out so I can explain to you how the Posi Loc system works and what it looks like off the car visually better. All right, so Posi Loc system, you can see obviously I've got the subframe completely dropped out of the car because I'm doing the camber arms and then the diff bushings. But let me show you exactly what this looks like off the car, where it's way easier to describe what's going on here. See this small, thicker washer? It fits perfectly over this bushing and makes it to where, see, there's a little bit of squish there. If I push it down, it comes even. It removes the ability of the subframe, at least limits it because it's up against the rubber, to flex up and down. And then see this guy down here? This larger open ring? It squeezes around the outside of this rubber right here. You can see sits nice and flush with that metal ring in there whenever you squeeze it. And that, again, removes the deflection of the subframe moving left and right, but it maintains the rubber bushing in its natural form so you don't get any VH increase. So good engineering there. Once you put the plate on and you suck this up, these two squeeze in and end up collapsing against the inner bushing and taking up that slack. But this is what it's going to look like installed on the car. Now on this side, you've got this small, very thin washer because there's not near as much room for deflection that needs to be taken up here. So you put that small, thin washer up here and you see it's nice and even with the center bushing again. Down here, there's a factory plate that goes onto the rubber bushing. This needs to come off. You can pry it off with a big flat blade or even a box end wrench if you get in here and just work each side and pop it off. Let me do that real quick. And boom. Once you've pried it off, it pops off pretty violently. It takes a good bit of force to get it off. That once went here. Take that, throw it off to the side, and you're gonna have this guy right here is the most important part of the whole kit because this does a lot of the centering. You're gonna see down here that there are openings in the bushing. You're gonna take this guy and you're gonna slip it into the openings in the bushing like this so that it is actually holding the sides of the bushing. And then it centers physically the bolt, see, into this hole. Now all of this is to prevent this subframe from rocking in and out and to center it inside of the chassis of the car to make sure the subframe is always in the same place. Now if I wanted to, I could drop this subframe out and put it back without having to get an alignment because I don't have the enormous, look at this, amount of slop that's in there from the factory. In fact, look, here's a bolt. Look at this. I mean, talk about hot dog in a hallway. Instead, we've got this guy right here and it's tight. And then let me grab a bolt. One hand. Now we're gonna put the bolt in here and that's it. Snug. Before I put the subframe in, I'd like to show you Posi Loc, guys, something here. These witness marks, the serrations, are where the subframe bushing is biting the metal. You see these two marks on either side? These are witness marks from the subframe twisting in and out and rocking on those front bushings. You can see the same thing here, though obviously I scratched this up a bit on the way out, but you can see where the bushing is biting it, and then look at the witness mark from the rotation. That's what you're trying to stop. That's the crazy bit. That's what was allowing the springs to try to walk their way backwards off the perch is all of that movement. So this is what that rear bushing is going to look like whenever you're setting up to do your Posi Loc. You've just backed out this one bolt and you're preparing to put your Posi Loc in. This is the rear of the car by the sway bar. This is that plate that you need to take off so that this guy can sit up in there. So I left this one on so that you could see it. I'm going to go ahead and pop this guy off. And of course, your big, small washer spacer goes up top here. Quick tip, when you're prying this plate off on the car, it is more difficult to get to. So imagine that plate is still right here. Take a nice big wrench. This is a 1-inch, and slip it between the plate and subframe here, and then do like this to generate leverage to pop that metal bit in the center is pressed. So it takes a good bit of force to work it out of there. And of course, reverse order of disassembly here. This is what it's going to look like whenever you're doing the rear Posi Loc. Bushing sits up in there like that, goes through the upper washer and then into the frame. Of course, don't back your frame away as much as I have if you're just doing this. This is just because I took the subframe out. All right, and here's the front subframe bolts here. You can see the smaller thick and the larger thick on the top and bottom, squeezed over the bushing, and then I've got the bolt running up through the middle. All four of these large 21mm subframe bolts get torqued to 129 foot-pounds, and these little guys right here on this bracket are 41 foot-pounds. Let me show you. Do a little dance on the ground here. Don't mind me break dancing. And here's one more view of the rear one. Not quite all the way in yet, obviously, where it's slipped into that sleeve, positively aligning the rear of the subframe, and then the smaller washer hanging out up here top. Watch this guy right here. It needs to be, as you bring it down, you need to make sure it stays centered onto there. I highly recommend putting the rear bolts in first so that you can get the frame twisted in just the right position so that these suckers will lock in, the large aluminum collars here. And then the fronts are nothing because the bolt holes are loose compared to these. These are tight. Boom, and just like that, you've got your lockout kit installed. This is what it's going to look like when it's tightened down in the rear. Scoot around. And what it's going to look like when it's tightened down in the front. Now, like I said, if you're just doing the Posi Loc, you just drop this whole subframe about 1/2 inch so that it'll float and wiggle around, and you take one bolt at a time and put this together. But if the subframe's coming out completely like I did, you're going to fight a little more. Regardless, just do up the rears first, do up the fronts next, tighten everything up, and you're good to go. And just because y'all stuck around to the end of the video, and my son absolutely loves to party. You ready, bub? You want to go fast? All right, hold on. You had fun? Yeah. All right, well, thank y'all for watching part 2 of this video, putting in the Kelltrac's subframe Posi Loc system. Turned out great. Negligible, no NVH, went drive the car, everything's fantastic. But anyways, thanks for watching, and as usual, we love you. God bless. Peace.